It is not a surprise, but the demand for loans and grants for smaller businesses made available through the federal Paycheck Protection Program remains extremely high. Even so, as President Trump touted the program today, much of the distribution of that money has stirred up anger. And as Lisa Desjardins tells us, the rollout of the program continues to have its share of troubles.
Judy, yesterday was the opening of a second round of applications for this money, but it was marred by glitches, delays, and missed opportunities. The first batch of funds was used up in just 2 weeks. Now, some of the money went to larger companies, even though the intent was to help smaller and medium-sized businesses. We checked back with several business owners who were having trouble getting these loans through the Paycheck Protection Program. We wanted to find out if anything has changed.
I am Jennifer Myers Polidori, and I am the owner of Myers of Keswick. It is located in Greenwich Village in New York City. It is a specialty British food store. I did not get the loan the first round and was told to apply again in the second round, which I did on Friday.
My name is Justin Moore. I am the general manager of Uncle Bobby's Coffee and Books in Philadelphia. We were one of the lucky ones that were able to get our applications in and approved during that first round of funding, and we actually received our funds late last week.
My name is Chris Goslin, and I have a small hair salon located in Noank, Connecticut. I have applied to 3 different lenders, and my expectation is that I won't be approved, that maybe nobody will see my application. But I'm giving it another shot.
My name is Greg Honeycutt. Our company is here in Houston, Texas. It's Honeycutt Construction and Design. We applied for the first round and got nothing. I feel like it's been kind of a mess, and I think that leads to a little bit more anxiety for small business owners like me.
Now that we've received the money, what can we do with it? That's really been our issue. They say basically 25% of the money you receive can go towards non-payroll costs. The problem with that is there's only a small list of categories that could fall into. It's rent, it's utilities, and interest on certain things. With us being closed, our utilities may be $100 for the next 8 weeks because we're not using any of it. But we have other bills like our insurance premiums, our security monthly expenses that don't necessarily fall in as an eligible expense. So we have to make the choices. Do we pay this money?
I am so frustrated that businesses who were out there in the stock market, they were trading publicly, companies that their CEOs are making more money than I will probably ever see in my lifetime, took advantage of a program that was designed to help people like me, people who need the money so that we can survive, and so that next week, when our taxes are due and our rent is due, that we won't have to worry what we have to pay for.
I don't have much hope. We did apply, with multiple banks, but we're making a plan to go on without it.
While the release of the latest relief money was bogged down, some larger companies, as you heard, like Shake Shack and some large hotel companies, have returned the loans that they got. More than $2 billion was returned from companies after public outcry. All told, the government has committed roughly $650 billion for this program so far. We turn now to 2 leaders who advocate for small and independent businesses. Amanda Ballantyne is executive director of the Main Street Alliance, and Brad Close, he's president of the National Federation of Independent Businesses. Brad, let's start with you. First of all, what exactly have been the problems in the last day and a half as thousands of businesses were waiting for this money?
Yeah, thanks. I think the biggest problems we hear of from small businesses is that they're having a hard time getting through their banks to get their applications in. They've been very frustrated at the delays. They keep reading media reports of publicly traded companies accessing significant amounts of money. And when you look at the size of money that's going to large businesses and publicly traded, that money would fund tens of thousands of small businesses to help them keep their employees on the payroll. So those that haven't gotten loans, which is about 80% of small businesses who have applied right now, are very frustrated.
Amanda, my understanding is that the Small Business Administration was trying to gear this, tried to make changes to make this more accessible to small banks. But from what you understand, what kind of businesses actually are getting this help most, and where is this money missing the mark?
In the most recent legislation that put more money into this program, there was special money that was to be earmarked for smaller, mid-sized banks, credit unions, and community financial development institutions that are really designed to work with underbanked and unbanked business populations around the country. So in some ways, that's a very good development in this program. But those programs and those banks are still having trouble and struggling processing the applications that are coming in. And I would say the new computer system that SBA put in place to try and process the backlog, because remember, they paused the program last week, so there's this tremendous backlog, has also led to disparities in terms of who's getting access. I think they're still processing the backlog from the last program, and I think it's unlikely that businesses who were turned away or failed to get in line in the last round of this are going to see loans come through.
We've heard a lot of that frustration, and as you talked about, Brad, frustration over those larger companies getting the money. But this was supposed to be, the law says it's for companies with fewer than 500 workers. How exactly are these national giant companies getting this money to begin with?
Well, that's a good question. I think they have very good banking relationships, and probably this seems to be coming mostly from large national banks, large regional banks that are reaching out to probably their best customers and getting them in these loans. When you read that the Los Angeles Lakers professional basketball team got almost $5 million, that definitely has us concerned. There are tweaks, though, that Congress and the SBA can make to this program right now that would make it a lot better and would prevent some of these things from happening. One of the biggest concerns we hear from small businesses is the requirement that 75% of the loan proceeds be used for payroll and benefit costs. That's a huge threshold for businesses that have 2, 4, 6, 8 employees. Their employee costs aren't that high.
That's what I want to talk about more. Amanda, we heard just in that story, some businesses, especially restaurants, in some cases daycare, say that this program really is not helping them for different reasons. Can you explain why that is? Some businesses meeting their payroll is not exactly what they need to keep open.
Sure. And I think, remember, this program was designed initially before we had these tremendous waves of layoffs. So many businesses have already done stunning layoffs, and are in fact, many of them are applying for unemployment themselves. What they need is to keep the doors open, keep fixed costs flowing, paying their rent, paying their utilities, their mortgages, so that they can continue to remain solvent and avoid the type of debt that would push them into bankruptcy. It's also true that businesses need money right now to pivot, to rehire, so that they can shift their operations and operate in the ways that they are able to in a somewhat limited environment. And so the PPP, the ratios are incorrect. That's true. It could be made more flexible and also be pivoted to make it easier for businesses to start to figure out how to open up and to retrofit to do so.
I know some businesses are worried about when they can get their revenue back. But Brad, I want to ask you finally, I've heard from businesses that have waited for this money and now say they've run out of time and they are beginning to think about layoffs, maybe as soon as tomorrow if a loan doesn't come through. How many of your members are in that situation where they may be laying off workers right now?
Well, when we asked our members 3 weeks ago, 50% of them said that they couldn't make it more than 1 to 2 months under the current economic conditions. So if they're not getting access to a loan program or a grant program, that's a problem. And that's why these programs have got to be fixed to work for the smallest of businesses. The SBA needs to take that money that publicly traded companies are returning and keep it in the pool and get it out to the very small business owners out there. We're concerned that there's just not many options there for small business owners. I know the Fed has announced their Main Street program, but when they announced it, they said it would have a minimum loan floor of $2 million, which is ludicrous for small businesses. They need to have that loan floor very, very small, so a typical small business has another place to go for help.
And we know small businesses, a reminder, they are so key to our economy. Brad Close, Amanda Ballantyne, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.